What's up guys, it's Saminosuke here, you can just call me Sam, and today I'm going to be recording my first video, and it's going to be regarding the topic of the 10 reasons why I believe you can't improve at League of Legends. Alright guys, so getting into the first reason, it's going to be one that doesn't necessarily, include everyone, but it's that you aren't actually playing to improve, and that's okay. Now, I know this might sound crazy, but not everybody plays ranked to improve and climb. Some people actually just play for fun, and that's totally okay. But I don't want you going into this video thinking that I'm saying that anyone that plays ranked has to be playing to improve, because that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that if you're looking to improve and you're in a lower rank like bronze, gold, or silver, and your goal is to improve and get better at the game, then you might want to watch this video because there could be some stuff that's helpful for you. But it's totally okay if your goal while playing is to just have fun, because League of Legends is a free-to-play game that you don't have to play in order to improve. A lot of people just play for fun, they play with their friends, they play on the weekends, they play it casually. Even in ranked, they might play casually, and there's some people that play casually at even higher ranks, and that's fine. They might be just really talented at the game, but you don't have to play to improve. Just if you want to improve, you might want to listen to some of the stuff I have to say. Okay guys, so getting into the second reason, it's that you play too many different champions or roles. Now there might be some people that only play 4 champions, but they play each of those champions in a different role, and that's not the path you want to take if your goal is to limit your champion pool. You should be looking to play 2 to 3 champions in a main role, and then 1 to 2 in an off role primarily. This is something that will help you improve at the game when you first start just playing a champion over and over again. You start to learn matchups and wave management and combos and back timings and a lot of things that you may not necessarily be thinking about at the time, but it'll become second nature because you've played it so much. If you look at people that play, like Mo is a great example, the Yasuo one trick in NA. He's somebody that has played so much Yasuo and knows so many matchups that he doesn't really have to think about his combos and his laning and what he's doing in lane, but he can think about other things like, how is his jungler doing, where is his jungler, where are his lanes, can he roam, the meme, of course, but he can just focus on so many other aspects because he's mastered that champion. And this is what limiting your champ pool does. It allows you to focus on other aspects of laning in the game without having to worry about what champ you're going to pick into the enemy team comp. I have a picture of Tarzan's account on the screen, and it's just because these champs, especially his Graves, it's something that you see him play every single season and consistently hit Challenger with it. He doesn't have to, vary his champ pool based on the meta or the season or, flavor of the month or anything like that. He's just a consistent player that always manages to hit Challenger based on the champs that he's mastered over years of playing the game. Okay guys, so the third reason I have for you is that you don't know when to farm instead of fight. Now there's a lot of layers to this topic, and I can't go into all of them right now or else this video is going to be way too long. So mainly what I'm going to discuss is, your champion versus the champion your opponent is playing, how they interact with each other, and how you should be farming in those types of situations. So I'm going to use a few examples to describe this. So let's say you are a melee assassin and you are against a ranged poke mage. You have to understand that early game, you are not allowed to farm. It is they are in control of the lane. That's why they're called a control maze. Something like a Syndra or a Cassiopeia or Ori that has abilities that are very long range as opposed to your short auto attack range, and they can manipulate where they want you to move based on minion HP and things like that. So in those situations you cannot fight, but you can farm. And a third but you cannot get every bit of farm. There's going to be CS that you have to let die because of their range advantage, and you have to know when your power spikes are and when you can back. You don't necessarily need to know when you can back, but you have to understand that you have to be able to back on items rather than just getting poked down and then backing on an awkward amount of gold. Like if you're Zed, you get poked down, you know, level 2 and you back with 250 gold, you can't do anything with that. You have to be able to back on, you know, maybe double longsword or dirk and farm safely to keep your HP up so that you can get as much CS as possible. You're not taking bad trades and fighting poorly, and this way you can back to get items efficiently. Another thing, the instead of fight is basically you just need to know that you can't fight in situations that are poorly designed for you. So if you don't have wards in your side bushes, and you know you're a melee assassin with no flash, you cannot take a bad trade just because the enemy is playing up. It could be a bait. They could just know that they're stronger than you. You might be misjudging their damage. So you just have to play safer in situations where you are in a losing matchup. Even matchups and things like that, you can understand easier when you can trade and when you can go in for farm if you're two control mages. But really, the focus should be on, you know, when you're in losing matchup. I'm sorry guys, it had to be in the video. You guys know it had to. It's been said a million times. It'll probably be said a million more, but you guys don't ward. You don't ward, and that's one of the reasons that you're probably not improving as quickly as you think you should be. It's on the screen. I'm gonna say it for you. Knowledge is power. Wards grant knowledge. Therefore, wards equal power. Wards give you the ability to do so much in every phase of the game that without them, you're basically helpless in certain situations. Without wards in the early game, you don't know where the enemy jungler is. You don't know, you know, where enemy bot lane might be roaming on you. If you're mid lane, you don't know if they're coming right now as you're, you know, maybe trading or going in for farm. They allow you to track the enemy jungler, ward for your jungler so your jungler can get better ganks off and better invades off. They allow you to get vision on where the enemy jungler is starting so that you know how to play in your lane in the early phases, you know, the 1 to 5 minute range. If your jungler is a strong level 3 invader like Lee Sin and you're a champion with a strong level 3 power spike like LeBlanc, it gives you the ability to know where the enemy jungler is and then invade with your jungler. In the mid to late game, it just sets up so much, you know, it gives you so much pressure. Wards do. Wards themselves give you pressure because it allows you to know where enemies are, when they're rotating, and this allows you to manipulate your team and be on sides of the map that the enemies aren't and take objectives like towers, dragons, rift heralds, barons when the enemy team is least expecting it. In the very late game, control wards are 30 gold. You as any laner should have one. Junglers and supports definitely need at least 2, sometimes 3 if you're going for, you know, it's very late in the game, 40 minutes, and you're going to have one last team fight and you need that vision to set up for a play. This will allow you to get a pick or set up for a nice rotate to get an inhib or an inhib tower. Wards just allow you to make so many more plays to win the game than if you didn't have them at all. Wards really are a difference maker late game, and I promise you, if you ward more, you'll see a drastic difference in your ability to make plays for your team and allow your teammates to make plays for you. Alright guys, reason number 5, it's going to tie in with 4, that's why I have it right after it, is you never look at your minimap. The minimap is another tool that's given to you for free that gives you so much additional information regarding where your teammates are, where their lanes are, how, you know, right above, if you have the your teammates icons right above the minimap. I know it's not right on it, but if you have it above it, it's right in your, you know, line of vision. It'll show you how much HP they have, how much mana, their ult cooldown, their level, you know, things like that. But specifically on the minimap, wards will show up on the minimap. Placing wards will grant you vision not only for where your screen is placed, but also, you know, on the minimap where you can see where the enemy is, where your teammates have vision, where you guys don't have vision. You know, if you have 4 wards and, you know, bot side, you know, your blue side, you have 4 wards bot side and you know that there's nobody in river, you can play more towards that side if you know that your bot lane can have priority to roam up to you. If you're the mid laner, didn't mention that. If you're the mid laner, you have 4 wards bot side and you know your bot lane has priority, you can play to that side, and just by looking at your minimap you gain all that knowledge immediately. You gain knowledge as to where, how lanes are looking. If you see a lot of minions at your teammate's tower and you know that maybe the enemy jungler is topside, if you saw him on a ward and they're setting up for a dive and you have priority mid and you can roam, you can help him just by looking at your minimap. You can just gain so much additional information by looking at things and doing things that are so simple but so many people neglect because they're not playing proactively. But I promise you, looking at your minimap will give you additional information that will, I guarantee it, increase your ability to win games down the line, 100%. Reason 6, it's something a lot of people talk about, a lot of people address. It's addressed on the League of Legends subreddit all the time. It's addressed in forums, in game chat, in, end game chat. It's talked about so much, and I'm just going to address it here because it's another main reason. You flame your teammates and talk too much in general. A lot of people almost have this fear of the mute all, but I honestly believe it is something that could be your best friend in the lower ranks. I've done a few climbs from bronze or silver accounts up to high plat, low diamond, and I have to tell you that a lot of things that people say is a whole bunch of useless information and useless garbage that gets spewed out of people's mouths. I know I'm being a little harsh, but it is absolute garbage what some people say, and it is useless information. There's nobody taking summoner timers. There's nobody saying, win conditions. There's nobody giving any useful information. Maybe, I'd say 5% of your games might have it, but at the end of the day, mute all is your best friend in that elo. In elos bronze, silver, gold, it's 100% your best friend. Most people in those ranks have this idea that they're trapped and that they are better than the people that are next to them. This happens all the way, maybe it happens even in Challenger, I highly doubt it, but this happens all the way through Diamond. You'll see people with this god complex that they are trapped in the rank that they're in. And you cannot think that way. If this is you, you cannot think that way. I don't care. No one cares if you go 5-0 in lane and your bot lane's feeding and you can't manage to push that advantage to your team and help them win. If you are in the driver's seat, you have to be able to put your foot on the gas and really carry your team to a victory. And if you can't, you have to be able to analyze why you couldn't. Watch your replays, analyze this game as it's happening and understand why you couldn't win. But you have no right to flame your teammates and talk all this garbage to them for no reason. There's no reason to be a dishonorable player like that. Reason 7 is a point that I really want to address because it's something that is very important and that you really need to understand. Reason 7 is you play each game or lane the same instead of adjusting to the current situation. Now what I mean by this is that I was talking earlier about matchups regarding, farming. But that's not the only way that matchups come into play. I have two examples on screen. One is Gangplank versus Pantheon, and one is Gangplank versus Ornn. These are, in this scenario, I would be the Gangplank. I've played hundreds of Gangplank games. I know a lot of his matchups. I know some matchups that some people say are losing matchups, but if you play them right, they're winning matchups. But these are two that I think have very distinct factors about them. And I want to use them as my example regarding how you should play each game. Now, although I'd be playing Gangplank, or you guys, I'm going to be referring to you guys here. If you're playing Gangplank against each one of these champs in two separate games, these are not the same lane. You don't run the same runes, you don't play the same way, you don't have the same level 1 advantage that you do against each champ. It's completely different. Gangplank versus Pantheon level 1, you lose. Gangplank, although he can Q proc against Pantheon, Pantheon will Corrupting Pot Q, and it's going to do more damage initially and then burn you also. You have to run Resolve, because if you don't, you're going to probably die early. So therefore, you're taking away damage from your Q that you might have if you're running Scorch in Sorcery. So already you're doing less damage. He's doing more damage than you level 1, even though you have a poke ability in Sodacy. He then has an ability in his passive that will block one of your Qs. That takes away the damage from it. Although you can Q a barrel and it will still hit him, Pantheon's auto attack is pretty good early, and your barrels, they trigger down so slow that it'll be hard to hit them. This is a lane where you're gonna lose farm, and you don't have kill pressure. Pantheon early game against Gangplank is one of the worst. You just need gold in order to beat Panth. So you don't need to kill him, you need to sit under your tower, stack your grasp the best of your ability, stay safe, and don't die. Gangplank vs Ornn is a matchup where you absolutely abuse Ornn early. You can Q spam against Ornn. Even if he goes, W level 1, it's completely fine. I would run Kleptomancy in this matchup because I'm so comfortable with it. Some people will run Grasp because it's a tank and you want to have at least some tanky sense against him. I completely understand it. I would run Klepto because I'm comfortable with my positioning, and I feel like I could Q spam against Ornn, get a lot of extra gold from all those things I'm looting. And even now, Ornn has a huge gap close, which is something that is dangerous towards Gangplank. But if you sit on a barrel, you put a barrel underneath you, Ornn ever gets close to you, you pop the barrel, and you can get that move speed W away and cleanse his little knockback stun. You're completely fine. These two lanes, although you're the same champ, are completely different, and that's what I really want to drive home here, is that you cannot play each game and lane the same. You have to adjust to the situation of the matchup. The situation of, is your jungler fed? Is the enemy jungler fed? Does your mid laner have pressure? Does their mid laner have pressure? How are you going to play your lane based on, what happens at all stages of the game, what's happening with your jungler, where you have vision. You really have to be constantly adapting to the situation at hand in order to improve your game sense and, heighten the ability for you to adjust on the fly when things, go haywire. Being able to do this will drastically improve how well you understand the champs that you're playing. Okay, this is going to be a really quick reason, but it's one I think definitely needs to be addressed, and it's you play in autopilot mode half the time. Autopilot mode is the phenomenon that happens when you're driving or walking and you end up somewhere and you don't really know how you got there. You were just kind of going through the motions, and this is one of the worst things you can do as any player in the game, no matter what role you're in. One of the worst things you can do is be mindlessly playing and not understanding why things are happening, what's happening on the map, looking at your laners, looking at your jungler, knowing where things are happening, what things are happening. It's one of the worst ways to play. You have to be playing proactively and not just mindlessly laning, mindlessly shoving, mindlessly autoing minions. This is how you get yourself killed. You put yourself in bad situations. You have to be constantly aware of the situation at hand and what's happening around you and on the map. This is one I know a lot of people are not gonna want to hear, but you're gonna have to hear it. Reason 9, you don't know how to get carried. This relates back to the God Complex thing where everyone thinks they have to be the reason that they win a game, but being able to know when you're getting carried and learn how to get carried is a trait in itself, and it's something you can master in itself, honestly. In this scenario, obviously I have a backpack, your team is the backpack, you're in it, and you're borderline about to fall out of it because you won't stop, typing, asking for ganks, you won't stop dying, and you just think that because you're losing, therefore your team's losing. I think one of the worst games I may have ever had, I might have been 1-11. It's probably one of the worst games I ever played, and I somehow won that game. I think I was Irelia. And my team was just so much stronger than the enemies, except I was making it harder on myself and my team because I felt like I needed to play aggro and lane and get kills to catch back up, when instead I could have just sat under my tower, gained XP, absolutely farmed nothing, but my team been so strong that they could have just won by themselves. You just have to understand that not every game has to be you with the most damage done, the most kills, the most assists, and the least deaths. You don't have to be the reason your team wins every game, but you should be. That doesn't mean you don't have to be playing correctly. You still need to be trying your best if you want to improve and making sure that you're playing proactively. But just because you're not 9-0 and you know that you're not the sole purpose that your team won doesn't mean that what you did that game is irrelevant. You know, playing even, going even, giving up farm, and helping other people and making sure that you're not the reason your team loses is just as important as making sure you're the reason your team wins, honestly. Reason 10, you're trying to shortcut the improvement stage. A lot of people say they want to improve, but that's not really their goal. What they want to do is play the strongest champ in the current meta, the flavor of the month champ. They want to copy pros builds item by item, and they just want to get that quick hit, I want to say, of, if you're bronze 1 or bronze 2, they want to get a quick hit of silver 5. But just playing a strong champ in the current meta, it doesn't give you what you're saying you want, and your views and your desires might be skewed is what the problem is. Saying you want to improve and then changing your champ pool every patch is one of the biggest lies you're telling yourself, because you're not improving. You're not learning matchups for a champion, you're not learning a role, you're just playing what's strong to try to climb, and if that's what your goal is, that's fine, but then say that's what your goal is. Don't look for, improvement tips, but then say that you want to climb a whole tier in, a few weeks, because that's not what tips for improving are for. It's to help you understand the game on a more basic level, and then expand on that knowledge so that you can improve, like actually improve, and not just improve your rank. Alright, thank you guys for watching. That brings me to the end of the video, where I'm just gonna rattle off a few quick things. So on my stream every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, I'll be offering $5 coaching and $10 coaching. This will be from 8 p.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on those days. The $5 session includes a share screen session where I'll watch you play, I'll give advice, analyze your play, and then we'll do a 10 to 15 minute recap after your game, and I'll answer any questions you have in that time. $10 session is the same thing, except I will record the game as well and then rewatch it with you and point out certain areas I feel you could improve on. We will then do the same 10 to 15 minute recap, and I'll answer any questions you have. Also, I'm planning on doing an unranked to diamond with 3 champs, 1 in each main role I play, which is top, mid, and jungle. And I'll do a review of the climb and then give my tips on how I thought it went, how I did it, and things like that, and maybe even applying some things I said in here. I might do it at the end of the season, but it's probably going to be at the start of next one, I think. Follow the socials, Twitter at seminosuke_lol, Twitch, twitch.tv/@seminosuke_lol, YouTube, if you just YouTube seminosuke_lol, you'll be able to find it. And if you can't, the links to the YouTube channel and Twitch are on Twitter. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.